Everybody. I recommend that you guys first check out my other video on that introduces the types of camera angles in comics, because this one is going to focus on how panels and panels inform the Watchmen. Okay, and so as I said in the other video, you can see frames and camera angles, and also the lines around portraiture, for example, and paintings, as all having a very similar effect. Um, so first of all, let's go over some of the things that we established in the previous video and apply it directly to the Watchmen. The first is point of view. And you see in this epic, dramatic part where Rorschach discovers the way that the girl died, we have a switch from a general point of view, kind of a medium shot, but through the window, and then we have Rorschach's point of view, which allows you to get in to see in the way that he does conclusions. In general, as a side comment, Moore does a really good job with Rorschach's investigation scenes by not using dialogue or voiceover and using only pictorial methods to get you into what Rorschach is thinking. This is very good tying to other things we've talked about with characterization, because you get to see if Rorschach is a candidate for a protagonist, he's it as the detective. You see the steps that he's going through. But in this a few frames later, this is excerpted, you see the point of view of seeing the dog with the seemingly innocent face, and then you see Rorschach's reaction to it with a close-up on his hand. This is really good because the dog would seem completely innocent, except for what we have seen through Rorschach's eyes from the previous use of point of view. And then just to make things really special, there's a tie-in to the Rorschach image. This being a flashback, and the Rorschach image takes Rorschach back to his moment with the psychologist, and that's just really, really, really good stuff. Okay, now talking about long shots, medium, and close shots. What's really great about this combination here is you have a medium shot where the comedian comes and visits Moloch, and you see him very far away. And then again, we're going to talk about time later. Time elapses, and we see instantly that he's in his face. So between the frames, there has been movement from a medium shot to a short shot, and that you can see you can see the comedian's crazed attempt to get information from Moloch or to get any meaning of life. Then there's a beautiful transition into that being a flashback again, then this being the present, where Rorschach is intimidating the same person. And the faces are just switched one to the other to showing that Moloch is going through a kind of interrogation of existential nature with the comedian, to an interrogation of practical matter, trying to get information from Rorschach. So that's a medium shot and a close shot. Here at the end of the chapter, we have a long shot as the Rorschach visits the grave of the comedian and slowly walks away. The long shot allows for the gravestone to be in the foreground, and then he walks away, and indicating that it's a cemetery. Also, as far as kind of mise en scene, and which means kind of like establishing the things in a setting, or for example, motif. This angel statue is presented at the front of one of the chapters. Again, a lot of visual detail. All right. There wasn't as much tilted camera angle in Watchmen I saw as other people, but I thought this was a really good example of this. So this is where Dr. Manhattan absolutely loses control after being pressured by questions about how he may have irradiated companions and compatriots, and even his wife in previously. And there's this climax moment which involves both a close-up and a tilted camera shot to show this frenetic craziness. Remember, there's just something in the art of design that diagonal lines tend to have more energy. Like, for example, is the quintessential lightning bolt that goes from one that goes from one angle to another. So, and now bird's eye point of view. This starts out with a medium shot that I want to go over, even though this isn't a bird's eye point of view, where you see the eyes of the two characters, and Night Owl is, Dan is thinking about a romantic interaction with person who's Silk Spectre, and you can see their two eyes where his eyes looks at her and her eyes looks around. You can see his fixation but her nonchalance, and then in this frame he shuts the door in defeat, not having approached her for some kind of romantic interest, and then he slowly undresses by himself with a medium shot, and then you have a bird's eye point of view showing him in the loneliness of a bed for one, with his hand in the bed where somebody else could be. It's a really, really good use of a bird's eye point of view, not very dramatic like a cityscape or something like that, but showing his loneliness as he goes to bed by himself. And then classic uses of an ant's eye point of view, in the sense of this is the first time that Silk Spectre finds herself on Mars, staring at Dr. Manhattan's creation, and you can see both figures are very, very tiny, juxtaposed by this, but it's also where it's framed, because we're behind them and we see them as being very, very small. So it's not a bird's eye point of view in the sense that it's kind of a individual point of view, but we're actually a third person kind of behind them. But I think it has a very, very similar effect. Similarly, with this theme of kind of play with various kinds of frames and shots, is typically in the first video on shots, I talked about how an establishing shot is usually a long shot. But in this case, the establishing shot is an anti point of view and a close-up. And what it does is the same thing. It gives us details about the setting. You have the statue from Ozymandias showing his gratitude. You have some of his products. You have his owls, which are his symbols, and you also have articles about how well he was doing. And then you also have the picture of the Watchmen, the group, when they were together in the background. All of these, and again using visual details, all of these visual details tell you something about the setting. It's next to a computer. He has lots of awards. He is the successful hero out of all of them. He's the one that has material success, and you get that from the setting by seeing these kind of seemingly random objects in the mise en scene. So this is a case where not a long shot, but a different kind of framing has the same effect as an establishing shot. So I hope that you remember that these things are to what the effects are, to what the feels are. And I hope that it gives you a little bit of a more complex view as you enjoy this graphic novel or others.